Whoa, before you continue watching, spoilers. I'm going to be talking about pretty big plot points and plot twists and all of that jazz. So if you haven't watched it, please don't watch this video. Go watch the movie first. You'll do yourself a massive favor. It's so good. And then come back. Okay? Cool. Now that that's out the way, let's do this one last time. Way back in 2014, Phil Lord and Christopher Miller was approached by Amy Pascal and were asked,
"Can you rejuvenate the Spider-Man franchise?"
Yeah, absolutely. As long as we can adapt the Spider-Verse and use Miles as our spearhead. Deal. So they brought together a team of amazingly talented animators, a diverse cast, skillful directors, and they caught lightning in a bottle. With the release of Into the Spider-Verse, innovating the genre of animation with its effects still rippling today. It was a crowning achievement. But we know that story. The real question is, did the Mad Lads do it again? Yes. Yes, they did. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is all I can think about. Every second of this movie was bliss. Every frame was lightning in a bottle. I remember sitting in the cinema during the credits, just feeling numb. It was just that my brain just needed time to process what in the world it had just seen. It wasn't that I felt nothing, I felt everything. It was stimulation overload. I didn't know what to think. I was exhausted. So much was happening on screen all the time. The artistry on display was so staggering. Literally every web spun, punch thrown, earth shown, word said was woven together with such love and care. It was palpable. The score by Daniel Pemberton did not miss a beat. It is all I've been listening to. It elevated every scene. You know it's a good score when you can picture every moment, imagine every scene just by listening. I was in absolute awe at how the team elevated and pushed the technology. Expressions were more detailed, the scenes more dynamic, the swinging more creative than ever before. How cool was it seeing Miles and Gwen just vibing together, having fun, showing off? I was smiling so much my cheeks hurt. And that goes for the big set pieces as well. Fighting a Renaissance vulture in a modern art museum? Okay, go off! Literally choreographed to perfection, and most of the necessary exposition dumps was interwoven between fights, which meant there was constant movement, constant drive, and I for one was never ever bored.
This is something else.
No, but seriously, from the very first frame of the movie, I knew I'd need many more rewatches to fully digest what the hell I was seeing. The way it starts, from the brilliant colors and shapes reverberating through Gwen as she spills her raw, unfiltered emotions on the drum kit. The only other person that she connects with that understands her circumstance, the only other friend is a universe apart, and she is alone. We know Miles' story, we know his struggle, and she wants us to know that he's not the only one. Hey guys, I'm here too, and I don't want to be alone. I don't want to hurt the people around me. I don't want to lose another friend. She's so deathly afraid of losing that connection, so scared of that isolation. And all of that information is given to us in the first minute. Come on, are you serious? The way the filmmakers portrayed her feelings of love, of anger, of regret through these brilliant bursts of color was so amazing to watch unfold. It also gave us everything we needed to know about her world before even showing a second of it. It's this world that reflects your emotions right back at you in the most beautiful displays of color. It was honestly like watching an ever-changing watercolor painting. Take this scene for example. I love how the colors wash over from cool to warm. This is what I love about animation. It doesn't have to be photoreal. The sky doesn't have to be blue. The grass doesn't have to be green. All that matters are these characters, what they are going through, and how can we show all of that in the most emotionally poignant and visually interesting way possible. And that, for a lack of a better word, is very, very cool. And that's just one Earth, one character. The entire cast was brilliant. I literally never ever thought that I'd ever see an Indian Spider-Man on the big screen. Ever. He was done justice. Mountbatten looked so visually striking, so congested. It reminded me of visiting my grandparents and taking 1 hour to travel 5 kilometers. He was so happy, so full of humor. His costume was beautiful. His way of fighting, his swinging was so unique and steeped within his culture. Thank you. And then comes Spider-Punk, who honestly was animated so insanely out of the box. His guitar was animated on 4s, he was animated on 3s, and some of his body parts were animated on 2s, I think. So he would constantly be changing. How? How do you even begin to conceptualize that idea and then follow through on it? How? Tell me how! I completely understand why he took 3 years to perfect. And they did all of that just to visually show his hatred towards consistency, towards the status quo. I love how they knew we'd think that it was going to be another love triangle between him, Miles, and Gwen, but in reality, he became Miles' biggest ally. Constantly telling him, you already have a family, yeah? You don't need to join this little clubhouse. While also preparing for when everything falls apart. He knew it was all going to come crashing down. He was just waiting for the moment Miles finally realizes. And then he dipped. He's an absolute madman and I bloody love him. And let's not forget Peter and Mayday. Oh, it made my heart so happy. It felt so warm seeing them together as a family with MJ. It was so cool seeing how he went from someone so deathly afraid of the idea of children to now honestly annoying everybody he possibly can with photos of Mayday. It was so nice. It was so beautiful. I loved it. All these characters, even the ones I haven't mentioned yet, moved in their own way and felt unique. Every single part of this movie feels like an explosion of creativity and individuality. A 14-year-old was asked to animate the Lego section of the movie. A 14-year-old! He's one of our best. And he killed it. I think Lord and Miller sum it up perfectly with what they say here.
That we're not like taking the average of everybody's ideas, but rather we're amplifying the individuality of all of the artists.
It's not just, one person's whim. It's 1,000 people's really thoughtful ideas.
How cool is that? With the current misuse of AI and the underpaying of artists and writers, how amazing is it that Lord and Miller, and honestly everyone involved with the making of this film, just giving the power to the artist. It's 1,000 people's ideas amplified and showcased. It's a cacophony of voices from all walks of life given form, and it warms my heart to see it so universally loved. What I love about films like these, these big stories, is that although they are multiverse hopping, although they have superpowers, they're seeing multiple versions of themselves, the reason we can suspend our disbelief, the reason it's so engaging, besides the beautiful animation and everything I've said previously, is that all of it is grounded and rooted in a deeply personal story. Some of my favorite scenes in this movie come from the quiet moments shared between characters. Moments like Gwen and Miles upside down at the edge of a skyscraper, just connecting. Everything is upside down, but it feels so right. Or moments where Miles and Gwen talk with their parents. The struggle of trying to be understood, we all know what that feels like. We all have those stories of those arguments. Relationships are messy, and I love that they show that. When Gwen comes out as Spider-Woman to her dad, he pulls a gun at her. He doesn't know how to react. He makes a mistake and pushes her away. And both of them only manage to reconnect and restart their relationship at the very end of the film. Or Miles' parents trying so hard to understand their son. His mom coming to terms that her little boy just isn't little anymore. And his dad trying so hard to connect with his son, trying to say the right thing so that he doesn't push his son away from him. MJ and Peter watching over Mayday's crib, exhausted but happy. We may not have the ability to swing or stick to walls, but we've all felt misunderstood before. Or absolutely nervous while talking to someone you really like. This is why it's so important to have these moments in the film, because this is what grounds it. Without that relatability, without that connection to these characters, you'll switch off. Throughout the film, Miles is constantly trying to find a place where he feels like he belongs. Trying to get back to the only people that understood his double life. He gets that wish granted, but it isn't what he thought it'd be. Miguel reveals the Canon and the sacrifice Miles has to make. And I get where Miguel's coming from. His selfishness destroyed an entire universe, cost him his family's life. So of course he's trying to control it all. He's running solely on guilt, on that shame. And all the other spider people he recruits have all gone through their canon events and come out the other side. So they agree that this is just the sacrifice that's in store for people like them. What makes Across the Spider-Verse so interesting and unique is that the story challenges that very idea. I understand that spider people are marked with immense tragedy. I get that all Uncle Ben's die. I understand the fate of all the police captains. I know their origin. But does that mean that Miles should just sit back and do nothing while his dad dies? Is that what being Spider-Man really is? Yes, you could argue about the greater good, but to not even try? Miles is constantly being told by the group he so badly wanted to belong to that he is an anomaly, that he shouldn't exist, that he isn't Spider-Man. But yet he goes against all of that, goes against the entire multiverse, goes against the canon to try and do the right thing, to try and save his dad. I don't know about you, but that sounds like the most Spider-Man thing to me. His boldness, his defiance is also what triggers the change in Gwen and Peter to refocus their priority and to help their friend. And if we scale it back to the real world, so many people refuse to call Miles Spider-Man, refuse to acknowledge his story just because he isn't Peter. And I feel like this movie is a big fuck you to all of that noise. A direct opposition to the idea that things can only be one way. A direct opposition to the canon. And this is only part 1. But these characters still had complete arcs. Miles went from searching for a place to belong to realizing he had that with his family all along. Gwen went from leaving her band, being alone, to forming her own band by the very end. It didn't feel like they randomly cut the movie in half. There was a clear beginning, middle, and end, and a perfect setup for the final film. It's so creative to use Spot, who was just another villain of the week, and made his creation directly linked to Miles' origin. Every part of the previous film is now elevated just because of the revelations of this film. Seeing the spider, seeing 42, the glitching, it all makes sense now! And if I didn't make it abundantly clear, this film shows Miles forging his own path, believing in his own story, trying to save everyone he can and be damned. He is Spider-Man. Quick story time. My brother was taking my sister to school and they were talking about the movie and she said that Miles is her favorite Spider-Man. The Spider-Man she thinks of when we casually talk about the character, and I thought that was really cool. You know, 6 years ago, this character wasn't really part of the conversation as much as he is today, you know, but over the last 5 years with these films and the games, this legacy character is standing side by side with the original Wallcrawler because of the impact his stories have had on everyone. Stanley said it best. Anyone can wear the mask. Guys, I literally cannot wait to see what happens next. I can't wait to see how Miles does both. Can't wait to see Gwen get that happy ending. Can't wait to see more of Peter, Mayday, Pravitha, Noir, Penny, Polka, Hobby, Bite. I can't wait to see more of Earth 42 Miles. I can't wait to see what a menace Spot becomes. I just cannot wait to dive back into this world again. It makes me so excited to see the many creators this movie will inevitably inspire. And more than anything, I hope this movie did something for you. I hope this movie showed you how special you are for the individuality you have, how special your story is. Everyone involved in the making of this film has such a deep love for it, and it's shown on screen in every frame. If this movie inspired you to create, go fucking create! If this movie helped you connect a bit more, I hope your relationships thrive. And if ever you have doubt in yourself or in what you want to do or in how valid your story is, then just listen to Spider-Man.
Nah, I'ma do my own thing.